Time for another Soccer Down Here 1v1. Our tour of USL League One continues. And for this one, we go to Chattanooga Red Wolves. Catch up with friend of SDH, President and GM Sean McDaniel, the Chattanooga Red Wolves. Sean, it's always great to catch up with you. Thanks for hanging out.
I love being on with you guys. It's wonderful. I appreciate all you do.
So when it comes to the season in and of itself, I know you've had a little time to kind of decompress after the end of the regular season. Looking at it from 30,000 feet, what are some of your takeaways?
Well, it was a disappointing season. I think if there's anything that we've learned with the Chattanooga Red Wolves for our fans, for the city, it's we expect to win. We expect to win. We expect to be in the playoffs, and it didn't happen this year. So I think from a season standpoint, we weren't pleased with it. We didn't start well, but we finished well. And I guess if there's hope for 2024, it's in that we finished very strong and it gives us momentum. I know that's a cliche, but I'm happier where we ended than where we started.
And when you look at that, obviously, you know, in USL League One, you've got to start out fast, and it is one of the most competitive leagues out there, regardless of level that we're talking, country that we're talking, really. The competition in USL League One over the last handful of years really has ramped up, and you've got to be on it from absolute zero when the season starts.
Well, and I think, John, the proof is that every year we don't even know who the final playoff teams are until the last regular season of the game. And, looking into 2024, I know it'll be officially announced here shortly, but there's going to be 8 playoff teams in League One. So it gets harder and harder, not easier and easier. There's more coming. And you make a great point. It's probably the most closely contested professional soccer there is.
And from the perspective that you have there, I know that over the last handful of seasons, we've been able to look at the live, work, play environment that is being taken care of there in Eastridge at CHI Memorial Stadium. For someone who, and literally, I was having a conversation with a friend of mine the other day who is from that Northwest Georgia, South Central Tennessee area. And I was explaining what's going on with the stadium and everything. And he goes, "Oh, that's what that's for. That's who that is." And I'm like, yeah, their relationship with Dalton and the Dalton Red Wolves in League Two and Red Wolves, Chattanooga Red Wolves in League One. I mean, it is a beacon, and it is that calling card that you guys have been developing over time. And as you go driving up and down the freeway, you can see how things are continuing to grow and evolve there as well.
And I think the important part about that is when you have a tough season like we did, our fans actually increased. They got better and bigger as the season progressed. And that's a testimony to the show that's put on by the Red Wolves front office and staff and the stadium team. And, we're putting on a show. Soccer is just 90 minutes of the event. And yeah, it's what drives the ticket purchase. But when you are able to control your own stadium environment, which is really what sets us apart, I believe, from most of the teams, is the ability to activate and animate the stadium so that it's actually an event that happens to have soccer being played at that time. And if you're having a rough patch, you're out there for the total entertainment value versus just to watch good football.
How much thought goes into all of those other ancillary pieces of the puzzle when it comes to game day presentation, the rest of the week, other events, things like that? How much of the conversation is drawn and gravitating toward those other elements to make the experience that full 360 degrees?
It's really what we spend most of our time doing. The soccer takes care of itself, meaning we have a technical staff, we have players, but with respect to how we put on a show, we don't deal with the soccer side. We deal with all the non-soccer elements, the food, the beverages, the beer, the live music, the fireworks, the jumbotron, the sensory overload, if you will, of the event. We take big steps to plan out our themes. We do that 10 months in advance, 6 months in advance, 3 months in advance. So we just start the process now, so that by the time we kick off, all our themes are relatively laid out well. and people know they know what to expect at a Red Bulls game, and they know it far in advance. It sells season tickets. It's like a symphony. We need all the musicians playing their instrument well and at the right time. And when it's all said and done, people come happy and leave happier.
Was there, to continue your symphony analogy here, was there a particular piece of the orchestra that surprised you in this past season where you're in a meeting and you're sitting there going, I don't know if this is going to work. I don't know if this particular idea is going to work. You went with it anyway. You took that risk, and then you show up on game day and the thing just goes absolute gangbusters. Was there one of those ancillary 360-degree things that took off that you weren't all that sure about?
Live music. One of the things that we added at the stadium this season was a new bar. It's called the Howl Bar. And the whole purpose behind it was not only for people to enjoy the game with a frosty beverage from the Howl Bar, but the pregame and even a little more importantly, the postgame music. So people came to be, again, entertained before the game and then after the game. And it went so well for us that our intention is to have live music every single home game next year, so that again our fans can come and enjoy the entire night.
When you mention the interesting piece of news about the increased playoff rush, you're now getting more franchises being added, more franchises being discussed. Santa Barbara's on the table, Spokane's on the table, Portland, ME is on the table. Antelope Valley is being discussed now. They're on board in the coming seasons. Texoma's on the board. I think Northwest Arkansas is a part of the USL discussion as well, coming up in divisions. You're starting to get those hubs, I think, that were important for the development of USL League One specifically, because, we joke about it, but I know that you're leaving Chattanooga on that charter flight to Fresno, California. I know it's a nonstop, and you guys just get there, with the snap of your fingers. What is it like to have these hubs developing finally with the rivalries that you've got, and now you're getting the added franchises over in the West as well?
So I think the two elements that the USL has gotten right in all of this is a slow and steady approach, most notably in the venue. The necessity of having a proper venue to play the match and to activate the match. And while we couldn't launch that way because we were very much a startup league, we're going into our 6th year. And so now, as you look at Spokane, the potential of Santa Barbara, Lancaster, all the areas you've just announced, they're all announced with a stadium deal, which I think is very important and critical in what the USL has done well. The other thing, what the USL is doing well is we need more teams regionally, because after all, we are running small businesses here where we don't want to spend all sorts of money on travel and, necessary costs to be able to play the game. To be able to regionalize the matches not only builds the rivalry, which we want. Look, we love having Knoxville here. We love having South Georgia Tormenta. Now let's create that even further west and Midwest. Mm-hmm. And now we have a good footprint of teams. Travel is reduced, and we got some good regional rivalries. I think the USL is heading the right way with that.
I was going to ask what your feedback has been adding Lex SC, adding One Knox to those rivalries that are already in place in Greenville, in Statesboro, Charlotte, and what have you. What's it like to add these other regional pieces to the puzzle?
I think it's, again, when you look at the legs on a stool, right? We need 3 of those legs to stand. And if we kind of, move that into the country, we've got a good solid base here in the East, where we got a strong base in the Midwest, and we're now expanding into the West. So when you look at propping up the league, we just have to get a balanced amount of teams, continue to grow those markets. Again, credit to the USL. And now we can scale it. Like, there's a scaled approach to the travel. There's a scaled approach to the expenses that are involved in playing professional soccer in this very large country.
We know that the 23 season is one match away from being completed for USL League One. It's the Dogwood Derby, and it's North Carolina, and it's Charlotte. But you're already planning for 24 because you know from your previous parts of this conversation, you're sitting there thinking, okay, 6 months out, 10 months out, we've got to get ready. 24 is going to be here before we know it. Where is your planning and getting ready for 24, whether it's on the field, bringing in the right player that you want so that Red Wolves can make that push for the playoffs in the 2024 season, the off the field stuff? Where is the planning process getting ready for 24, even though 23 still has one match to go before it's done?
Well, as far as we're concerned, it's no secret that we've had a very unorthodox and challenging coaching carousel in the last 12 months. As a result, it also allowed us to get our current head coach and technical director, Scott McKenzie, 3 months before the season even ended. So, we have a nice runway for Scott, which did a lot of things. It showed him the teams, it showed him the level, it showed him the league. It really allows us to now go into the off season and with a running head start on signing players. And we've got a few that were already across the finish line. We'll announce them at the appropriate time. But again, it's a brutally honest sport, right? The results speak for themselves. So when you look at our fans and you look at our expectation on the field, we have to change the dynamic of the team to have the level of player that meets the coach's standards. And I think we're heading that way. I like who we brought back. I really like who we brought back. And I love the free agents we're about to announce that we've signed. And, look, I'll let you know this time next year how it went. But right now it looks good.
Sean McDaniel, president and GM, Chattanooga Red Wolves, hanging out with us for another couple of minutes to break down everything Red Wolves there for a Soccer Down Here 1v1. And I also think that part of the infrastructure that Red Wolves have, whether we're talking Park City or Dalton and all these other moving parts, I think that adds to the way that Red Wolves are building from within, in addition to looking for those talented players, whether they're at other franchises in USL League One or outside League One and what have you, bringing them in under the tent, having these other places. And, the local element with Northwest Georgia being right there, the high school hotbed that it is, you get to keep an eye on a lot of talented players in a place where a lot of folks may not necessarily know that that's where talented players are, and you get to jump on the competition a little bit.
Yeah, and where we saw that come to reality and fruition, John, is with our current head coach. He was with us in Park City. He certainly established his soccer methods, his player recruitment there over the last 3 or 4 years. So it was an easy migration to move him over. And again, which to your point, that's why we have that where we do. And with Northwest Georgia, you said it, the talent is rich. We have a young man, Yair Paez, who we signed last year. We'll have him next year. And, we're close enough to Dalton to now we can offer a professional soccer platform far enough away from Atlanta United where, they may not come up here and try to access some of those players. And I love what we have with the player pool that feels like it's ours. It's all ours. And we'll continue to sign players from Utah and from Northwest Georgia.
And I know that you have the option if you wish to break news at any time, kind of like you did earlier in this interview. You always have a platform to do it. When you look back at day one of this franchise, when you stepped in the door to now, are you surprised? Do you still have aha moments? Is there a rhythm that's being developed when it comes to the development of Red Wolves as an organization? When you look back at day one to now for you and see where things have gone, what has this process been like?
Well, I think on the footballing side of things, the level is fantastic. Nobody knew when we launched. So our friends at Greenville, Tormenta, all these teams, we really were just trying to figure it out that first season. Here we are going into our 6th League One season. And there is USL championship caliber on these fields. We saw a report from the league not too long ago that shows that the top League One teams are equal to the middle of the USL championship teams. That's no surprise that the talent is there. And I think what I enjoy about the sporting side of it is how good it is. Like it's just good. It's entertaining. It's good football, and these are good players. And then on the non-sporting side, I love that these teams, particularly new franchises, are building stadiums. They're putting together a total package as they should. This is not just a franchise. This is a community and city epicenter. And when you're doing that across the country, especially in League One, it establishes a credibility that I don't think exists in many other leagues.
When you need advice, who's on your speed dial? Is it anybody within the league? And I mean, you can drop names if you want, but how many folks are on your speed dial list when you need advice about how to do things there in Chattanooga, or just sounding boards? Who, your soccer bartenders, for lack of a better phrase?
So there's two really. The owner, Bob Martino, he's while he may not have the soccer acumen side of it, but his business acumen is really, it's who I call. I mean, I love the relationship I have with him, to be able to literally pick up the phone and call the owner and say, "What do you think?" The other side of it is former men's and women's national team manager Bill Nuttall. Bill Nuttall lives here. He ran our national teams back in 90 and 94, and he just so happened to retire in Chattanooga several years ago. He's forgotten more than I'll ever know, and he's the other side of it. When I look at my two mentors and resources, our owner and then Mr. Nuttall, for sure.
All right. What are the next markers for fans and followers of Red Wolves and USL League One that they need to keep an eye on when it comes to the offseason and the sprint getting into 24?
While I can't announce this part because we need to leave it to the league, the League One season next year, I love what they have coming. It's unique. It's new. Look, all the banter around the USL ecosystem is pro rel, and while we're not quite ready to launch that, I love what League One has on the table. I think they've put together a very good season plan for next year. It's new. It hasn't been done in the USL, so I'm really anxious to see that happen. As far as the Red Wolves specifically, the stadium continues to grow. The turf is literally coming up as we speak, so that grass can be put down. We're putting natural grass down. We have additional seating that will be added as we launch into the season. Well, you only add seats because you have enough fans, and that's very encouraging that our fan base continues to grow. So I have no reason to think the foot will come off the gas for us or the USL.
Looking forward to it. And Sean, as always, great to catch up with you, my friend. Glad I could pin you down for 15 to 20 minutes to find out what's going on. One of the busiest men in soccer, regardless of where we're talking geography. It's great to catch up with you for a 1v1, my friend. We'll keep an eye on Chattanooga.
Thanks, John.